Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. I've got 2:01 p.m. and I want to thank everybody for joining us. I see we've got some guests. Linda, hi, nice to see you. And then we have a guest. Oh, very good. Thank you so much. So I'm going to call this meeting to order, and I'll get the roll call done. Rana Alexander.
Here.
Daniel DeFranco.
I am here.
Mark Epstein.
Here.
Linda Escott. I did not see her. Barry Johnson.
Here.
I am here. Kathy North.
Here.
Kelly Roche.
Here.
Patrick Stewart. And Demetria Tarian.
Here.
All right, good deal. We have a quorum. I'm going to scooch around a little bit and have just a few chair comments. And next time I'll get this agenda to reflect this. At the city council meeting this last Monday, the city of Saugatuck approved expanding our committee, our tri-community recycling committee membership from 3 to 4 members. And with that, we're going to welcome Kelly Roche to the picnic, so to speak. Kelly, for many of you who've been attending these meetings, has been just practically on almost every single one of them. So it really made sense to ask her to join us in a formal way and put her to work. So she's been, as you know, she's been pretty active with all the composting at the school. So we hope to utilize her in that way. Along those same lines, we're also, once it's official, going to welcome in Laura Goshorn from Saugatuck Township, and they're going to expand their membership from 3 to 4 as well. So for those of you in Douglas, if you want to add a 4th person, let me know and we'll get that process started. Secondly, the commercial record articles are getting great feedback. We had a lot of kudos the other day at the city council meeting. So I just wanted to be sure to share that with you all and appreciate your efforts in helping getting those articles. And of course, I've been very appreciative with Scott Sullivan, who's with the commercial record, and getting those articles in there for us every 2 weeks. So I know Daniel's working on the next article, and I saw it come across and he was sick and tired of reading it. So stay tuned for that article next week. So I see Laura Goshorn just joined us. Hi, Laura. How you doing? She's muted. Okay. With that, I'll move on and I'll open it up for public comments. So anybody in the audience who wants to speak on any item on the agenda, you should feel free to do so. And if you could limit your comments to 3 minutes, that would be wonderful. Anybody, you have to kind of help me.
I just have a quick comment.
Who do we got?
Mark.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mark. What's up, bud?
What's the matter?
No, well, you're a member of the committee, so you get to talk anytime you want. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You meant the guests.
Yeah.
I'll retract.
That's all good. I'll be sure to chime in, let you chime in. All right, who else we got there? Linda, anybody who wants to make a comment? Doesn't look like it. All right, very good. Then we're gonna move on. Kathy was kind enough to get us a draft of the minutes from the January 13th meeting. Let's see, I keep ding-dinging. So with that, I think everybody's had a chance to take a look at these minutes. Kathy, I did have a correction for you if you wanted to note it. Under 8C, new business, election of secretary for 2021, Alexander moves, probably should say to nominate you, to nominate Kathy North. Just insert that in there, and Scott seconds. I think that was the only thing I caught. Anybody else have any corrections to the minutes? Additions? All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from January 13th, 2021.
I move to approve.
Is that Mark?
Yes.
All right.
I'll second.
Oh, who was that?
Rana.
Rana. All right. Very good. Anything for discussion? Any other items, y'all? Nope. With that, okay. With that, I'll take the roll to approve. Mark Epstein.
Aye.
Very good. Rana Alexander.
Yes.
Daniel DeFranco.
Yes.
I see Laura's on, Laura Goshorn. Approve of minutes? She's still muted. Okay, we'll move on. Barry Johnson.
Yes.
All right, I approve, yes. Kathy North,
Yes.
Kelly Roche,
Yes.
Demetria Terrian.
Yes.
All right, I still think we're missing all the rest of our crew. All right, very good. The minutes stand approved. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve our agenda for today.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
All right, thanks, Daniel. We have a second out there?
I'll second that.
Demetria, very good. Any other comments about approving the agenda? Nope. With that, Daniel,
Yes.
yes? Demetria,
Yes.
Rana,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Laura, I think she's still unmuted. She's still muted. There you go. Barry Johnson. Barry.
Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Yep, I'm a yes. Kathy North,
Yes.
Kelly Roche. All right, very good. So the agenda is approved. Thanks so much, y'all. I promised Terry that Tracy, I'd get to her as fast as possible. So thank you so much, Tracy, for putting up with us. I want to thank first in advance Ken Freestone, who is on the call. Ken turned us on to battery solutions, especially after having participated, as all of you know, of all of last year through our whole processes. So Ken turned us on to battery solutions, and I looked these folks up and had a wonderful conversation with Tracy. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And at some point she said, yeah, we've got this PowerPoint. I'm like, oh my God, please come present to this group. So she was all over it. I got questions from a couple of you and she's gotten that. But she does have a PowerPoint presentation for us. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tracy. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So my name is Tracy. I'm an account manager with Battery Solutions. I have more slides than I probably will even tell you about, but I come from a long history in the resource recovery and recycling industry. I've been in this industry for about 25 years, and my specialty is kind of training and outreach and stuff like that. So I absolutely love talking to people about anything related to recycling. So I think Erin is advancing slides for me. So if you could advance the slide. So these are, I'm not sure why these are so blurry, but we'll just kind of work through it. So Battery Solutions is we consider ourselves to be a national leader in battery management. We are located, headquartered in, that's much better, thank you. We are headquartered in Wixom, Michigan. We've been around for about 30 years now. And we basically provide end-to-end life management of batteries. So we deal with battery collection and transportation and sorting and processing and kind of anything that you need in terms of battery recycling, we can accommodate that. So if you can advance the slide, Erin. So I think I probably went already through some of these. So this one, actually, I want to touch on this a little bit because I think this is one of the things that Garnet and I talked about on the phone that I'm, from my history and being in the recycling industry and the waste management industry, I am pretty proud of what we do with battery solutions in terms of recycling. We are certified. We have an R2 certification, which is a responsible recycler certification, and then something called RIOS, and it's Recycling Industry Operating Standards. And I think one of my next slides actually talks a little bit more about what those are. So if you want to forward that. So this is really, like I said, I'm really proud of this. Our company is really proud of this. These are stringent certifications that we have, and we go through audits annually for both of these. And it basically just helps us set the standard of how we process and how we handle material. Responsible recycling is really geared toward the electronics waste industry, recycling industry, and then recycling industry operator standards, the RIOS, is just all about safety and environmental health and employee health. So we're pretty proud of those. And this again just gives you a little bit about, visually about what we do. We are involved in collection and sorting and transportation and processing. We are one of our own end markets, our own end sites for processing material, and we process alkaline batteries ourselves in Wixom. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we kind of go through some of these slides. But we provide, again, that end-to-end management of batteries. One of our big things is about traceability. So we can tell you exactly where your batteries are at any stage of the process, whether they're, still sitting at your facility or at, your offices, if they're on en route to our facility. Once they get there, if they're being stored before we sort them, we can tell you exactly what rack in our warehouse where those are at. When we sort those batteries, we sort batteries by different chemistries. We call it chemistries, different battery types. And then once those are sorted, we can tell you exactly where the end market is that those are going to. We deal with about 24 different end markets for the different types of batteries, battery chemistries that we collect. So there isn't a battery type, size, or chemistry or quantity that we haven't really dealt with. So any kind of battery, any size, any type, we will deal with those. And the next slide. This is just about natural resources. You guys are a recycling committee, so that is close to my heart. And we talk about the population and where the population is going to go and just exactly how much resources it's going to require to sustain, our consumption. It's a pretty staggering number. So we can move on with this one. Just some of our recycling rates. In Michigan, our recycling rate is about 14 or 15% right now. So we're less than half of the national average in Michigan. We talk about lead batteries. 99% of lead batteries in the US are recycled, and that really is partly because of the core charge that's associated with lead batteries. So we don't have that with all the other types of batteries. So we don't see as great of recycling rates with other types of batteries as we do with the lead. So, and we can move on from this. If anybody has any questions while I'm going through this, please feel free to jump in and stop me and ask. But this is really just more just background information about the value in terms of conserving natural resources that go into batteries and why it's important to recycle those. So
Tracy, can I ask
Sure.
you a quick question
Sure.
on the Michigan statistic that you had there?
Yeah.
Is there a specific reason that you see as to why ours is half?
For Michigan as a whole in terms of recycling. So that recycling number that we have for Michigan, that 14 or 15%, that is historically that low compared to the rest of the average of the rest of the country, because for the last 25 years, the state of Michigan has really focused on landfill capacity instead of recovery of materials. And whether that recovery is traditional recyclables, whether it's things like paints and batteries, or whether it's things like food waste and organics and yard waste. Our state policy up until about 2 years ago has really been on landfill capacity. We are now, we actually, if you probably are well aware of this, the state of Michigan now has recycling funding in place. This is going on, I think, 3 years right now, that we have about $15 million that has been allocated for resource recovery efforts. Right now, Part 115, which is the laws that govern solid waste in Michigan, are being updated and are in the legislature for the second year in a row to get those passed, so that we start to focus more on materials management and recovery instead of landfill capacity. So once that that Part 115 passes, then we're really gonna start looking at materials management instead of landfill. Every county in Michigan is required to submit or to have and submit a solid waste management plan. And once Part 115, once those amendments change, it will then turn into a materials management plan. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Long answer. So, so this is just about, where we get our materials, right? We know that natural resources are, can be finite, right? And that when we recycle, whether it's things like batteries or paint or traditional papers, plastic, metals, and glass, that those materials are then used to make make new products. So, and the same thing happens with the different chemistries that are associated with battery production, whether it's lead or cobalt or aluminum or zinc. You know, battery recycling provides us with those materials to make new products. And so the next slide. So why do you recycle? You know, people have batteries piled up. You want to do something sustainable with your batteries. We don't want to landfill them because, again, we know that we can do something different with them. Damaged and defective batteries, especially when we're talking about lithium batteries, those are potentially dangerous. Communities or different organizations have different sustainability goals and objectives. So, you know, all of these things are reasons why, you know, organizations decide to recycle batteries or add them into their mix of materials that they want to recycle. Part of it can just be because it's universal waste and it's part of their regulations to manage and handle that material properly. So we can go on to the next one. These are just some different elements that are found in the different types of chemistries of batteries, everything from zinc and manganese to aluminum and cobalt. Lots of different things, even steel is mixed in there. So these are all the things that we can recover when we recycle batteries. And the next one, this is an alkaline battery. And I think that, Garnett, I think you and I had a pretty extensive conversation about alkaline batteries. Coming from the recycling industry, and I've managed household hazardous waste programs. I've worked with organizations to do the outreach and education. I've worked on the side, we're looking at budgets and what we need to, what we can afford and what we can't. A lot of times alkaline batteries are one of those chemistries that end up getting cut from household hazardous waste programs. And part of that is because our understanding is that there's nothing hazardous in an alkaline battery. So the same thing is, there's nothing hazardous in a plastic bottle or a piece of paper, and we make sure that we get those recycled. The thing about alkaline batteries is that, and we actually, Battery Solutions processes these on site. We do it with a mechanical process. What we extract from alkaline batteries is steel. So, we can put that back into the production of new steel products. The other thing that we extract from alkaline batteries is a zinc manganese concentrate, and it's a powder. And that zinc manganese powder then actually can get used in the production of fertilizer. So there's a crossover between recycling batteries and fertilizer production for food production. So. And this is just the process for alkaline batteries. We have different processes for different chemistries, but pretty much all of them involve the collection, the sorting, the processing, and then what's extracted from those, again, steel, zinc manganese, and then a paper plastic mix, which is kind of just like all the the labeling and stuff like that. So we can move on from this. Again, just a little bit more about the processing specifically for alkaline. Again, we do this at our site. It's a room temperature process. So it's pretty cool to see how that works. So if any of you ever, feel like taking a field trip and want to come visit us and take a tour of our facility, we're more than happy to have you. So we can move on from this. Again, a little bit more that just talks about zinc deficiency and how, especially with alkaline batteries, that, we can use that zinc from alkaline batteries to produce fertilizer that then helps with food production. So a little bit more about that. This is this is a technical slide that that we have that, obviously we go way more into detail than what we need to here. So and this is a really cool slide. I think this is super powerful. I'm all about images and what an image invokes in people. And I love this slide. Unfortunately, I can't take credit for the creation of it, but just the crossing boundaries between two different worlds that we wouldn't really think make a connection, battery recycling and then fertilizer and food production. So that connection is real, and we see it every day. We're involved in it with the operations that we do, which those batteries ultimately come from households. So again, this is a little bit about lead, like you talked about before in one of those earlier slides. 99% of lead acid batteries are recycled, and part of that process really happens because of the core charge that's associated with that. So when we talk about lead batteries, we're talking about mining for the materials and refining it, producing those batteries, installing them, deinstalling them, making sure that they get collected, And then the different components of those lead acid batteries get separated and isolated and used for different things. So whether it's the plastic, the lead, or the acid that comes out of that. So different components go for different things. And when we recycle lead, you know, the biggest component of that is recycling the lead from it, and the acid. So, and just again, the significance of that. So, you know, it's that core charge that really puts the value on those batteries. We laugh at, we were changing out batteries one summer in my son's car, and he had just left the automotive battery at the end of the curb, or at the end of our driveway, was going to go grab something, went back to get the battery, and someone has driven by and grabbed it. So thinking it was set out there for them to take. So, and again, that's because of that, the value of that core charge. So. Lithium ion batteries. I don't know how familiar your group is or how much you have talked about lithium ion batteries. You probably have heard about lithium and the dangers of lithium batteries. This is one of the big hot topics, you know, battery chemistries that there's a lot of talk about, there's a lot of push for in terms of research development, and then recovery and recycling of lithium batteries. So we're seeing those, you know, lithium batteries in primary batteries. So those single-use disposable cannot, you know, they sometimes are alkaline. They can also be lithium based. So we call them lithium primary batteries. They have a single-use charge or a single charge. And then we have the lithium ion, so stuff that you find in cell phones and laptops, anything that's rechargeable. Lithium batteries, we're seeing that's the component of EV batteries now, or hybrid EV. And, you know, there's long charges with those, very powerful, but also dangerous. So, and we can move on from this one. Thank you. One of the big things, it's funny because we have these industry terms, right? And we always make sure that we try to avoid the industry terms when we're talking to people that are not in the industry. But I love this one. We have a debate about this in our office all the time: thermal runaway. So a lot of the technical people will say, well, we call it a thermal runaway, and our marketing people are like, let's just call it what it is. It's a fire, right? So lithium and lithium ion batteries have the potential for fires. You've probably seen articles all the time that they are, you know, the cause of truck fires, recycling truck fires, garbage truck fires, fires at material recovery facilities, and things like that. So the energy that's encapsulated in lithium batteries poses a high risk, and it doesn't take much for them to, you know, to combust and start to smoke, and then eventually cause a fire. So. And this is some of the processes that are used in lithium processing or lithium manufacturing, and then the processing of recyclable batteries. Again, it's the mining, the refining, cathode production, making the battery. We use the battery. This whole second use is really just something that's getting developed in how we do that. So when we get lithium batteries into our facility, or people are done with lithium batteries, they don't hold enough of a charge for the original intent of those batteries. So whether it's for a phone, whether it's a lithium battery on a lawnmower, we have a lithium-based lawnmower, battery-operated lawnmower, whether they're a lithium battery in a EV vehicle, EV battery for a vehicle, there is still a ton of energy left encapsulated in those batteries that it doesn't become usable for the intended purpose, but there's still a lot of charge and energy left. And so one of the areas that is being explored in the industry is how we capture that extra energy for a secondary use, instead of wasting it before it gets recycled. So that's kind of exciting. Again, just some statistics about recycling lithium batteries and the components that are part of lithium. Lithium ion batteries is kind of a general term, more of a generic term is probably the easiest way to explain it. When we talk about lithium ion batteries, there are specific chemistries that are associated with lithium ion batteries. So they can be a zinc, or not a zinc, they can be a cobalt based. So there's different types of chemistries within lithium ion batteries that give different value to it. So in kind of the future of it, and where it's headed right now, is to use lower value materials in the creation of lithium ion batteries, which then make it even more challenging and even more costly on the recycling end of that, because the super valuable components aren't included as much or at all in lithium batteries. So if that makes sense. One of the things that Garnett and I talked about in terms of battery recycling and collection is our recycling kits, our recycling buckets. We have different sizes. I think a lot of what we talked about was the 55 capacity. It's a 55-pound capacity. It's a 3.5 gallon bucket. So it that is kind of the easiest thing that we had talked about in terms of what could work for your recycling collection of batteries. These buckets are meant to be both a collection unit as well as a shipping container. We have Battery Solutions has a DOT special permit that is imprinted on the outside of these buckets that allows these buckets to be used in transportation of spent batteries, including lithium batteries. So in these buckets, you can, and they're designed for dry cell batteries, you can put batteries such as alkaline, zinc carbon, dry NiCad, dry nickel metal hydride, and lithium batteries. You can also put small handheld electronics in those and then ship those back to us, and all completely within DOT, being DOT compliant. So, can we actually stay on that slide for just a second, Erin, please? So Garnett, I don't know, do we want to talk a little bit more about this, about these? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
please. Yes.
So, so like I said, the cool thing about these, and we have several different sizes. We have, we call it an iRecycle Kit 10, which is really great for like households. And then a 20 and a 55. The 55, I know one of the questions that I think you had for me, and I'm looking at my picture.
Yeah, it's
So-
there. It's the second one.
Yeah, so this is, again, the cool thing about this is it's really easy. You can mix your batteries in here. You don't need to separate anything. Department of Transportation requires lithium batteries to be separated when they're in larger quantities, but with the special permit that we have for this bucket, it allows the lithium batteries to be commingled with other battery types. So if you were doing, you know, battery collection in drums, and part of our conversation on the phone a couple of weeks ago involved that option. If you were collecting batteries and had enough that you wanted to ship them to us in drums, you would be required to separate out any of the lithium batteries into its own drum, and then you could put alkaline and nickel metal hydride and NiCad batteries all together. So those are DOT requirements for safety and shipping spent batteries. So the nice thing about these, again, it's a collection container, it's a shipping container, it's all one inclusive price. Our Recycle Kit 55, as we call it, it holds about 55 pounds of batteries. It's a 3.5 gallon bucket. I think our price is $110, and that price includes us, the cost of us shipping you those buckets, you filling those buckets, you ship it back to us, it includes the shipping back to us, and then it includes the processing for us to sort and separate and process the different chemistries that are in that bucket. So it's a one all-inclusive kind of price. And that we thought, you know, I mean, it's easy. A lot of places use it, businesses, communities, you know, across industry. We service every industry sector possible for battery recycling. And we have a variety of different industries that use this, from hospitals and municipalities to, you know, FedEx uses them for their own batteries. Kohl's has them for employees for battery recycling for Kohl's stores. Comcast uses them. So like I said, it's a really easy kind of program to use. When we get into using drums in bulk, in larger quantities, again, there's those separation requirements, and then there's transportation charges on top of sorting by chemistry and then getting charged according to the different chemistries that are coming in. So,
Tracy, I'm gonna fill them in a little bit on our conversation.
Yeah.
So for the committee and the guests on the line, you know, part of my question was, because Barry's a good example with his bucket of batteries at home. I'm anticipating that the first time there it is, the first time that we were to do this, I could just see, you know, like people showing up with buckets like Barry, and we'd fill up that little R55 in
Right.
a hot second. So what I had done is ask, what happens if that's the likelihood? And Tracy then told me about the drums. And again, it's a much larger container, right, Tracy? It's like a huge
Yep,
thing.
it's a 55 gallon. Yep. So it's a 55
Yeah.
gallon drum. So versus a 55 pound container. Yep.
Yeah.
Our buckets are 3.5 gallon. And then we're talking about in bulk is the 55 gallon drum. So,
Okay.
and so you could do it either way. I mean, that initial collection, if you wanted it to, it to be done in drums, we can handle that. And then you can switch to something like this. The other thing, I think one of your questions is could you just have, a plethora of these at the beginning to kind of weed out those, those large quantities that are going to come in from people saving up their batteries. You can definitely do that, and then scale back. Our kits, these buckets are two different ways. So you can recycle them at one-time kind of thing. You buy it, you use it, send it back to us, we're done. The other thing that you can do is it's called like a subscription basis. Renewal is probably a better way to say it, is that you buy them. If you're on the auto renew, once we get them from you full, we automatically send out another one. So a couple different ways that we can go with that. If you wanted, 20 buckets to start with, and then scale back because you don't need those afterwards, we can adjust that all within our system. So we really can do whatever you need us to do to get those batteries out is great. So
Okay. I see
Is that
Ken Freestone.
$110? Is that $110 per bucket?
Yep. So it's really, like I said, it includes the shipping of the empty bucket to you, the shipping of the full bucket back to us, and then our sorting and separating and processing of those batteries. Otherwise, the pricing is by per pound, per chemistry if you're doing drums.
So I have a couple hands up. I'll go Ken first, and I'm just taking questions from anybody. So if there are folks out there that aren't on the committee, if you have a question, just raise your hand and I'll get to you. Okay. So Ken Freestone, go for it.
Great, thanks, Tracy. Thank you very much. I do have myself. I have the R20 or the Kit 20 bucket, and that's a $70 bucket. And we're working with a number of churches in the Holland area and seeing how we can. What kind of fee could we charge for people to drop off batteries so we cover those costs? I paid for it myself just to try it out, just to see. When you do something like the drums, how would we handle those or ship those then? What's the process there?
For you, we would actually we have our own, we do a couple different, in terms of transportation, we have a couple different options. We have our own drivers that either use semi trucks or use box trucks to do a lot of the local Michigan, especially our box truck is used a lot for local Michigan pickups. We also contract with common carriers for larger volumes and for places that we don't actually have transportation in. So we do a couple different things. So for you, if you were using the drums initially or ongoing, those drums, we would provide you with the drums. You would fill those drums, but again, we would require you just to be in compliance with the DOT regulations that lithium batteries would have to be separated. So lithium and lithium ion would have to go into their own drum. So that is something that, your group, your volunteers, your staff, whoever it is, would have to manage. Lithium-based batteries in one drum, every other chemistry, alkaline, NiCad, nickel metal hydride in another drum. When you're ready for a pickup, you'd let us know. We would schedule that for you. We would send our driver out to pick up those drums on our truck and take those back to our facility. They get checked in, and then kind of in the rotation of when batteries come in, when yours is up for sorting, we sort and separate those batteries by the different types of chemistry. So we would separate out nickel metal hydride from alkaline, from NiCad, weigh all of those, and then you would get charged a per pound fee based on the different types of chemistries, or if there's a credit, sometimes there's a credit depending on what the chemistry is. So.
Okay, and just a quick follow-up to that,
Sure.
as part of it is, who are the local sites that you pick up from now? Are there some in our area?
We really pick up from everywhere. We have customers on the west side of the state. We have like Holland Hospital, Spectrum Health, in Grand Rapids. We pick up from, Emmett County in the north, Presque Isle Electric, electric light and power, up in Ontonagon, I think. So just really everywhere. I mean, we have customers all over the place. So in Michigan and then across North America. So yeah.
Great. I've got a
Rana,
couple
I
of questions, but I'll let somebody else go. And then I've
Yeah, I
got-
see Rana's got her hand up. Let her go ahead. Rana?
Hi, can you give an idea of how much that drum ends up costing? I know you said it's based on after you sort it and per pound, but if you had to guess, just so we could have a ballpark.
So a drum, usually if a drum is full, a drum usually holds a max about 700 pounds of batteries. And so if it was all alkaline batteries, if it was strictly all alkaline, which probably is not going to be the case, probably at the cheapest, it would probably be about $300 for the drum for the sorting and processing. Right now, I think our alkaline processing for municipalities is about 35 cents a pound. So, and that's really the very cheapest, best price that we give anybody. Our absolute best pricing is provided to municipalities, just because we understand, the economic constraints on municipalities. So your pricing, the pricing that we provide to municipalities is either in line with our largest volume customers or even a little bit better than that. So because we kind of believe in what we do. So that's the alkaline pricing. There's different pricing for NiCad and lithium. Lithium batteries are expensive. I'm not going to lie about that. Lithium ion or lithium primary batteries are really expensive to recycle. And then, lithium ion, where we're getting into the rechargeable batteries for like cell phones and laptops are different pricing. So,
And so
I
can
can
you
share
just
that.
give like I don't want to say a worst case scenario, but kind of like a worst case, including shipping, just so we can kind of gauge how we can move
Sure.
forward.
So I'm just trying to do some quick calculations. I mean, a drum could, if it's all alkaline, primarily alkaline, it could be for anywhere from $250 to maybe $400 or $500 just for the processing of the batteries that are in the drum, because it really is just going to depend on the chemistry of the batteries. So, and what that makeup is. After that, it's probably a couple $100 for our truck to come out there and transportation to pick that up. So, and that it doesn't matter how many drums you have, right? So if you have one drum versus 5 drums for us, you're better off having, having us come out when you have the most amount that you can handle in terms of storage for us to come out. So our fee to come out there isn't going to matter depending on the number of drums that you have. So when we get into common carriers and going larger distances, transportation or freight cost is dependent on the quantity of batteries that you have and then the number of pallets that we're picking up. So,
Okay.
Tracy?
yeah.
I see
Tracy,
Barry
if-
has his hand. Wait a second.
I'm
Barry has
sorry.
his hand up. So for those of you just helping you along, Barry's got his hand up. If you look at the top of your screen, you've got that 3 dots more, and you can raise your hand, and that kind of helps me kind of monitor the conversation. Barry, go for it.
Thank you, Garnett. When we peruse sites on recycling batteries and everything, they make mention of Home Depots and Lowe's. And at one time, even the Best Buy up in Holland was taking batteries. They don't charge anybody to do that, although we got to get in the car and drive and do it.
Right.
Tracy, what the free drop-off spots, do you guys service them, or do they they make other arrangements probably?
So a lot of times the free drop-off sites are going to be for the rechargeable batteries. So there's more value in a rechargeable battery than there is in an alkaline or a lithium-based battery. So what's happening is that you're able to drop it off for free. And I don't have my municipal pricing up here in front of me, but it would probably be the same thing for us. I mean, your NiCad and metal hydride, we probably don't charge you for. And like I said, I need to look at that because we just changed our pricing, updated some of our pricing. So some of that's not going to be any different because there's a little bit more value like in a nickel metal hydride battery than there is in an alkaline or a lithium primary battery. So, so yeah, I mean, I don't know that we get the batteries from Home Depot or Lowe's. There are other organizations that do battery collection that we actually end up processing those batteries or sorting those batteries for them. So we deal not only directly with industries and municipalities or hospitals, we also deal with environmental service companies. We process call to recycle boxes. So call to recycle is another mail back battery collection and recycling program. And we actually are the processors or the sorters for a lot of the call to recycle boxes. So we get Waste Management does battery collection similar to what our buckets are. We end up getting those and sorting and separating those batteries for them. So we are both, you know, direct to the customer, and then we also do a little competition with our own customers for customers as well, if that makes sense. So yeah.
The city of Saugatuck contracts with the single hauler. We use Republic Services. I didn't see anything necessarily on their website other than call them, and you call them and you're on hold for like hours. So that doesn't work, but
Right.
that is a potential that contracted cities could work out a program with their waste hauler. The problem I see is that like when I would go to Best Buy, I dump them all in. There's no sorting. The average person doesn't sort.
Right.
And if we put anything, let's say if the city of Saugatuck says, well, we're going to put something down at City Hall, it's going to be unmonitored.
Right.
And it's going to be a mess, which is
Right.
what our drop-off site was years ago when we had a recycling outdoor unmonitored thing. So
Right.
a little worrisome, but we got to move ahead somehow doing this. And this is great knowledge to get. Thank you.
Right. And like I said, I mean, it's, you know, part of it is just that education and that information. And it doesn't matter, you know, like I said, I've come from a long history of doing outreach and education on recycling, and it really doesn't matter how you say it, how often you say it. You know, you could be on your, you know, standing on your head saying it, and people are going to hear what they want to hear. So, you know, my only suggestion for that is just to be, you know, consistent and intentional and deliberate about the types of batteries that you accept and how they need to be prepared. And that's really the best that you can do in terms of how they're going to come in. So if it's something that, you know, needs to be taped or separated, you know, you're going to only be able to communicate that information so much. And then after that, it's kind of be out of somebody's, you know, out of your hands, and you're going to get what you get. And, you know, whether it's batteries or any other traditional recyclable material, it's going to come in the way that, you know, that people want to give it to you. With the battery buckets, I mean, they're small enough that you won't, you know, it's going to limit the amount of material that people can drop off. You can set them inside, you know, near office spaces and things like that. So it, you know, it seems like it's monitored, or it is monitored. It's just that, you know, someone knows that there's some eyes on that bucket and looking at people coming in and what they're bringing. So, but, you know, part of it is just advertising that it's for, you know, used dry cell batteries, things like alkaline, NiCad, metal hydride, small handheld electronics. If you want to include that can all be put in those buckets. So it's really just about, you know, trying to communicate the information as best as you can and as often as you can, just like with any other recycling.
One more follow-up and then I'll let the next person go. So you talk about taped batteries, and I did a little research on that. Some terminals have to be taped. Again, the public's not going to know that. They're just going to see a battery bucket, a 3.5 gallon bucket. You've got a number of batteries that should be taped that are in there. That's not enough volume to start a fire.
It is not according to the DOT, because it's a mix of batteries. You're not just, I mean, and technically somebody could put 55 pounds of lithium batteries in there. So it's, you know, it's not that there won't be a thermal runaway, as we call it, with a lithium battery in there. But the chances of that causing us a severe problem, a significant problem versus an entire drum of lithium is really very negligible. So, and that's part of,
Negligible, but possible.
it's possible. I'm not going to tell you that it's not possible, but that is why part of the reason that that bucket is the largest size that we offer is because that's part of the DOT regulation, is that they won't allow anything larger than that to be commingled, lithium batteries to be commingled. So when it's really not, the concern is not the alkaline or the NiCad or the metal hydride. The concern is the lithium batteries. So you're gonna put 55 pounds of batteries that include lithium in that. So it's going to lower that risk significantly. So, I mean, we've seen, you've seen truck fires and MRF fires that, I mean, it takes one battery, to get scraped along the concrete by a loader, and you start a fire. So, I can't tell you that that the risk is abated by using those containers, but it's definitely minimized. And like I said, that is the reason that the DOT has allowed us that size container and nothing bigger.
I think
So
what
Tracy,
we're-
let me before I go on to Mark, let me ask it a different way. In all your time with Battery Solutions, how many times have you seen a bucket ignite because of a lithium battery issue?
I don't think that we have seen it in buckets. So, and honestly, this is not, our buckets are no different than, what you would do with call to recycle or what you would do with waste management's buckets. They're really all the same. So it's similar containers. They're UN approved containers. So we have to have specific containers. There has to be a locking lid. There has to be labels on it with our special permit, which is imprinted on it. We are also now required to put a lithium label on our buckets just for transportation, that it's identified that there is lithium in there or can be lithium in there. And really what we do and how we're regulated is no different than what Waste Management has to do with their battery program or what Call to Recycle does with theirs. So yeah, I mean, our buckets come in and actually our buckets come in and get sorted within the next day or two if in terms of that
Okay.
size. So I don't know if that
Okay.
helps answer that.
No.
but-
So
Yeah.
Mark, I think I saw Mark was trying to
Yeah.
get a question in there.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So we haven't really talked about this in detail yet, but let's say that we wanted to provide a service to the community where we stage buckets
Mhm.
and to recapture the cost of the buckets and the processing and so forth. We wanted to charge the public a nominal fee.
Mhm.
You said the cost might be 35 to 50 cents a pound.
Right.
I know that CompuRenew and Batteries Plus charges anywhere from $1 to $2 a pound. So if we went out and we said, okay, we're going to charge the John Q. public 50 cents a pound, do you see any problem with your customers that charge the public where they may come back to you and say, we're not supposed to have competition undercutting us?
No, because I mean, you charging your residents to help offset the cost of battery recycling. I mean, that has nothing to do with, what we charge or what our other customers charge. I mean, it's just a economic way for you to help offset those costs, right? I mean, you could charge it by the pound. You could implement, a 1 mil fee. You could implement, a monthly fee for an HHW program. It's just your way of offsetting that cost. The city of Bay City, just for example, they have a drop-off site. They do curbside collection of, traditional recyclables. They also have a recycling drop-off site that they opened late fall, and part of the material that they allow to be dropped off is batteries. And so they actually, and I can't remember their fee right now, it's on their website. They allow batteries to be dropped off from residents and then from the surrounding community, just because it's, they have a kind of made it as a regional effort. And there's pricing for dropping off batteries. And I think it's by like a container size. I can't remember what the container size is or exactly what the cost is, but they actually, their fees are whether your batteries are sorted or whether they're unsorted. So, I mean, it's not unheard of for a municipality to offer a collection and to charge their residents to participate in that. So, someone is paying for it, honestly, and it's like any other HHW program. Some communities are wrapping those costs up in millages or user fees, and some of them are straight out saying, if you're going to participate in our HHW collection, it's going to cost you $50 a car to participate. So, there's no problem in your organizations and in the municipalities trying to capture some of that cost.
Right, so we really don't have a budget.
Pardon me?
Well, not right
I- so-
now. No.
Yeah, we don't have a budget right now
Right.
for anything, so
Right.
whatever we have to do that's going to cost something, we have to find a creative way to recapture that expense.
Yeah, and like I said, I kind of get on my soapbox sometimes because I've been in this industry for a long time and heavily in recycling. And the recycling industry really has done a very poor job in communicating the cost of processing materials, whether it's batteries, whether it's paint and pesticides, or whether it's paper, plastic, and metal and glass. Those services really need to be looked at as a service or a utility. And there's a fee for that. So we, as an industry, and I'm on the Michigan Recycling Board, Michigan Recycling Coalition Board of Directors, and we know this in our industry that we have just done a very poor job over the last, 10 to 15 to 20 years in communicating that there's a cost for it. I mean, there's a cost. We don't seem to complain that there's a cost to have our garbage picked up. And, we don't, squawk at the cost of a cell phone or to provide gas or electricity. But recycling is a service, it's a utility. And if we want to use that service or that utility, there's a cost for it. So, yeah.
Well, you ought to talk to
Paradise.
some of our residents. They have a complaint about everything.
So, I've heard it.
I-
I've been in, like I said, I have heard every story, and I've been in it long enough, when we used to do source separated recycling collection, where the driver would come and separate everything at the curb and stuff like that. So, I mean, unfortunately, our society, we are still in kind of that linear economic model, right? Where we extract resources, we make a product, we use it, and then the disposal responsibility is on the consumer. Batteries we've not gotten into that situation with batteries to have that extended producer responsibility, that the cost of, or at least some of the cost, is borne by the producer. We haven't gotten to that with batteries. That probably will definitely come with EV batteries, because that's just a whole different, kind of ball game there with the EV batteries and the size and the energy behind it. So.
Dimitri, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi Tracy.
Hi.
So my question is, when you say small handheld pieces of technology, are those, must have a list of those, so cell phones and
Cell phones, iPads. I don't know if there's such thing as an iPod anymore. Those are
probably in someone's
Right.
closet.
Someone's closet, yeah. So yeah, any kind of small handheld electronic can go in there, and that's really up to you. I mean, if you want to advertise that, you can. If you don't, that's fine too. So it's just something
Thank
that we
you.
allow in those. Yeah.
I'm going to let you move on. I know you probably had a few more slides.
I think it was just the questions. I think I put at the
Okay,
end.
great.
I had
go
extra
for it.
slides that I didn't want to delete. So Aaron, if you could just go to the next one. I think that was, yeah. So these are just my questions. I just threw these in here. So I think we talked about the first question already. You had a question about how many, and I keep looking at my phone. I'm not texting. I took a screenshot from our website about how many batteries on average fill up a 55-pound bucket. And we actually have this information on our website where we have our bucket. So just to give you an example, it's about 1,100, let's say 2,000 AA batteries would fit in there, 13 to 15 power tool batteries, 70 to 75 cell phones, and then about 400 cell phone batteries is what fits in what 55 pounds of batteries look like. So you can kind of get an idea of that. So I think we talked a little bit about kind of that backlog of batteries, unless you have other questions.
Go for it.
I think we talked a little bit about the recycling, the kind of the process that's involved. Again, I would invite you to come to our facility. It's pretty cool to see some of our process. How we sort, separate, just our tracking system, how we separate alkaline batteries, or how we process those. And then we actually do dismantling of EV batteries at our facility as well. So it's lots of things going on there. Do I see the battery recycling industry expanding so that it's much more accessible to people, and what that would require? I think it goes, it's a lot of policy kinds of things. So I don't think it's an easy answer. California has policies in place that require battery recycling. Canada has it. So unfortunately, I think that, fortunately or unfortunately, I think that we have to have more policies in place, or it has to be, part of the extended producer responsibility, where the producers are picking up some of the cost for recycling. I also think that if we have some kind of deposit system, we've seen that work well with lead acid batteries. We've seen it work well with Michigan's deposit law for bottles and cans. For that program in Michigan, I think they have like an 85% or more return rate on those containers. So unfortunately, it's, again, there's going to have to be some other policies and procedures and things in place in order for us to have expanded battery recycling. And it's really just about helping to offset that cost. So what options are available for battery recycling other than private recycling companies? So one of your group mentioned about, taking advantage of like Home Depot and Best Buy, Call to Recycle, like I said, is another program that you can utilize. I don't know that it's, some of the batteries are free, though. Again, those are going to be the more valuable ones that you can participate in those kinds of programs. So significant developments for battery recycling industry. Again, the big things that are on the horizon, aside from EV batteries, from vehicles, the other things that are kind of big on the market right now that we need to look at are high watt hour batteries. So I mentioned earlier that we have a lawnmower that has a lithium ion battery, and the high watt hour batteries are very dangerous, just for the potential of the energy that's in those batteries. So those are a little bit different in handling. And then the other cool thing, like I said, is the leftover energy stored in a battery that, that battery doesn't have enough energy to power the intended use. So when an EV battery fails, for example, for a car, there's still about 75 to 80% of the energy left in that battery. And so, what's one of the cool things that's being looked at in research and development is how we can capture that energy for a secondary use, instead of just discharging it and recycling the components, but capturing that energy for, to put back on the grid or whatever that might be. How does battery recycling compare to the plastics recycling industry? I guess is there whoever is the person that came up with this that can give me a little bit more context to that?
Daniel, is that you?
It was me. I don't know if I could give you more context. I guess I was just trying to contextualize battery recycling within the realm of recycling.
Okay. So I think two things, and I think this might kind of tie into the last question about, what is kind of most important. So a couple of things. Again, I mentioned before that recycling isn't free. There are people and processes behind recycling, whether it's batteries or paper, plastic, metal, and glass. The components that are wrapped up in these products, again, whether it's plastics or whether it's batteries, there are components that can be used to make new products. And I think that's, one of the big things that we need to think about is that while it might be really cheap to landfill these materials, landfilling in Michigan is, relatively inexpensive compared to recycling. We're not on the same level playing field. But understanding, as individuals and being sustainable and thinking about the global, the global economy and our responsibility to each other and to the environment is that, what do we want to do with this material? It's cheaper to put it in a landfill and that's where it's going to sit, or, do we want to do the higher and better thing with it and extract that material and use it for something else? So again, that's my little soapbox kind of thing. So, but I think that, there's challenges with any kind of recycling is getting that material, getting it in a form that that doesn't require a lot of extra processing. So there's not like a lot of debris to it and things like that. So it's, really making sure that we're getting the product the way that we want it. And that doesn't matter whether it's batteries or plastic, right? If we're talking about recycling plastic bottles, we want plastic bottles. We don't want, the film and the shrink wrap and all that other kind of stuff. So, so does that help answer your question at all, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing has been super helpful.
Okay.
I didn't really what it was going to be like going into it, so I have a much clearer understanding of the process in the industry.
Good.
So Tracy, I had Lori Goshorn had her hand up.
Sure.
Lori, go for it.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering, not so much necessarily for the interests of this group, but since you've been talking a lot about EV batteries, and I'm sort of taking a break from something with the Michigan Power Grid talking about EVs today. I know that in Holland, there's an outfit that's trying to reuse EV batteries and give them a second life. When you get EV batteries, do you have any kind of a relationship with any of these groups that are, say, trying to create storage facilities for solar and things like that?
Right. We don't do that currently, but we are in work groups and committees and connected in the industry to find and utilize those solutions. So we don't do it right now, but it is definitely something that is is on our horizon, is part of, part of our mission is to think again about the higher and best use for the stuff that's coming into our facility. So, and that really is just a matter of making sure that we can get connected to the right partners in order to capture that energy. So it's definitely something that we want to do. And like I said, we are part of the R&D groups and the work groups to try to figure out, how best to do that. Right now, when we get EV batteries into our facility, the energy is just discharged before they're dismantled. So.
Okay, and then the last question.
Oh, the last question up here.
Yeah, as consumers and concerned citizens, what's the most important thing you think we need to know and understand?
Yeah, I think that goes back to, again, the cost that's involved. And again, I'm not a believer that it should be a cost that's borne by the consumer. I think that, as much as possible, that we need to move forward with larger extended producer responsibility kinds of policies, so that some of the cost that is wrapped up in disposal, and whether that's recycling and recovery or just traditional disposal into a landfill or a waste to energy facility, I think that's unfairly put on the consumer side of that. So, but that's that's not something as, one individual citizen that we're going to go out and change tomorrow. That's, being cognizant of that and being involved in those conversations and kind of pushing our legislators to move forward with that kind of thing. So I think the cost, just understanding that, batteries are everywhere in places that we don't even think about, not just our cell phones and, smoke detectors, but, when you go to a facility and they have, the automatic hand washers or the hand dryers, those are all batteries. Batteries are literally everywhere that we can think of. And a lot of times that we don't even pay attention to. So we rely on battery power significantly more than we really realize. And to make those batteries, it takes, really critical rare earth materials to make some of those batteries and those chemistries, so that we have that, that kind of on-demand energy at our disposal. So I think just thinking about those kinds of things, but, I'm probably preaching to the choir, right? So I love these conversations because they can be all these, deep kind of philosophical kinds of things. So it's usually not the group that I need to talk to about continue to do the right thing, right? So so it's all the people that don't want to hear it that is who we need to reach. So
yeah. So really quickly, Ken, I see your hand up. You mentioned something, Tracy, when we got on today, about a blog, and
Yes.
you mentioned it specifically to this question, and I thought our group might be interested in how to locate that blog.
Yep. So
Um,
we are still working on getting that up. So our team at Battery Solutions is working on generating some content. So as soon as that is up and ready, it will be something that's available on our website or connected to our website. So I
Okay.
know that this question that we talked about, this last one, in terms of answering that for our blog, I think is supposed to be up in March. So
Great.
and so, yeah, so it's just gonna be something, connected to our website, but not quite up yet. We're still working on the back end of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so stay tuned. All right, Ken, I see your hand up. Go for it, bud.
Just a last little question here. The company that Lori was referencing is Global Battery Solutions, Chris
Okay.
Hunter. And
Mhm.
Chris has served on a number of the state boards too. So she's in that conversation about the reuse. They're taking those 80% capacity batteries, putting them into grids and using them for storage, developing storage capacity. And they're
Right.
also individual cells too. So a
Yes.
cell can come out and be replaced. It's not like it's all daisy chained, and if one goes out, the whole system goes
Right.
out. So
Right. And
that might
that's,
be-
yes. And that's actually, yes, I'm glad you brought that up because that's another part of kind of the industry and the technology is that, yes, exactly, batteries are, especially when we're talking about like EV batteries, and it's hard to explain. So I'm glad that you brought that up. There are individual cells that are connected that make up a module that then make up, half the EV battery or the entire EV battery. So yeah, so part of definitely what's happening on now and in further research is to recapture the remaining energy, but then also, not disqualifying the entire battery, but doing the cell management and looking at what cells need to be replaced versus, the whole module or the whole entire battery. So, yep, exactly. Those are two big things that are, is being worked on right now. I think too that, it's just to understand, when we're talking about EV batteries, what we're even finding now with the dismantling that we do, every EV battery is different, is set up and designed and assembled differently. So the amount of tools and time that it takes to dismantle EV batteries is, varies pretty significantly because they're all created differently. So we have a whole plethora of different tools that we have to use, that we have to have on hand in order to do the dismantling. So yeah, so there's definitely not a lot of standardization in the battery world, whether it's in terms of design and development, or whether it's in terms of labeling. We used to be able to know that a battery that had a green label on it was a nickel metal hydride, and that a yellow label battery was a NiCad battery. And so that was one of the ways that we could easily identify the different types of batteries. But the manufacturing industry has really gone away from that. So it takes a little bit more effort and training on our end to be able to know the different chemistries and how to identify them and separate them, because not all batteries, can be mixed together when they're going out for processing. So it's very dangerous for even for us in our alkaline processing to make sure that we only have alkaline batteries, that we don't have any lithium that are going through that line. The same thing with lithium processors, they don't want anything else. I mean, NiCad batteries are dangerous in a lithium processing facility. So I think that's another thing just to understand, that's, definitely more the technical side, but just that when we talk about the need to separate batteries, there's a need similar to the recycling, the traditional recycling industry, is that, the plastics processors only want plastic. They don't do anything with paper. Glass, manufacturers don't want, or recycling industries don't want, plastic and metal, right? And so the same thing with batteries is that there's all these batteries and we call them batteries, right? But every battery is a different chemistry, and understanding how what those chemistries do and what the end markets are for those chemistries is, really why we have to do the sorting and separating. So
Tracy, I've got I've got two questions, and then we'll try to wrap it up. One of the things for the committee and the folks who are on the line, my question about bulk, because I envision the berries of the world showing up and us needing to have a day. And you and I started talking about household hazardous waste day. That might be a possibility, a way to help at least with that first influx. So now I'm just hypothetically speaking, if we were to organize a hazardous household hazardous waste day, whether it's with Allegan County or a private entity, battery collection would be one of the things that they would collect, correct?
Right. Yep.
Correct.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that, and this is for the committee, for folks to kind of keep that in your head, a way for us to maybe help first off with the influx of batteries, the folks who've just kind of been saving them up, would be through a household hazardous waste day. The second question I had for you, generally speaking, and again, I'm not looking for definites from you. Municipalities, we're a small municipality, with the three together, Douglas, the township, and the city of Saugatuck. We're not a big place. In your experience, for folks that use the recycling buckets, how often are they filling those up and sending those back to you?
Oh gosh. I mean, it really varies. It can be weekly, it can be monthly, it can be yearly. We get them all really variety of timelines. So it's really all just about the generation, the generation of the batteries.
Okay. All right. And so along those lines, then let's say, for example, that we had a once a month that we'd end up having to send the bucket back. And so that subscription, that's $110 every time we send the bucket back.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
Yep.
Understood.
So
you could be looking at
every time we send it back, we would send out an empty one if you're on that kind of auto renew program. So but like you said, I mean, an HHW program is a good way to filter those out, whether that's even only when you collect batteries, right? I mean, there's a lot of communities that only collect those materials once a year. So people are saving them up, and you have one event a year or two events a year or whatever it is. And there's a couple ways that you can go about doing that. I mean, it can be a lot of the programs that I've been involved with. We have contracted with a company, an environmental services company. So I know of ERG, which is based in Livonia. They do a great job. And so they come in and kind of run the hazardous waste program, the collection, and then take the material and take it back to their facility. And then it goes to different places depending on what it is. So, so we have people that like that, like an ERG would come and take everything, including their batteries. We work with Eaton County, for example, and Emmett County, just two examples that came to my head, that they do hazardous waste collection events as well, but they keep their batteries out and we get their batteries directly. So it can be, however you want to set it up.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay. Any other questions from my crew before we cut Tracy loose, let her go? You need to help me if I can't see everybody. If you don't raise your hand. Who's that? Who is that?
This is Ken.
Who is it? Okay, go for it.
Two things. One is just for reference. Hope Church was collecting batteries in Harlan, and they said if they did this program with the buckets, they would be spending about $600 per year, is what they thought of. So that's how much they were collecting, just as a reference. It's not a huge church, but it is a good size. And the other question is, there's some misunderstanding about like Batteries Plus. They charge $1 per pound, but they only at one point someone was saying they're only recycling lithium ion and everything else is going in landfill, but they're still charging for it because they obviously have to sort them. And CompRenew is doing the same thing. Do you know what they're doing with their batteries? Are they recycling everything, or are they sorting out lithium ion because there's value in it?
I don't know. I can't speak to what they're doing. I have heard of other organizations, and it was not either one of those, in conversations with another customer that was using an environmental service company that said they, part of their HHW program was to collect alkaline batteries, and then they found out later that their alkaline batteries were being landfilled. So, I can't speak to, who's doing what and how they run their programs, or what's going out for recycling or what's not for other organizations. I would just suggest to you that you do your due diligence in asking what's happening to those. I can tell you with Battery Solutions that it's our mission to keep batteries out of the landfill. And part of how we, other than it being part of our mission, is that we have those certifications. We are R2 certified and we are RIO certified. And so our certifications actually dictate that we cannot send batteries to a landfill, which is, aligns with what our mission is, right? But we even get into the challenge that we cannot send batteries to waste to energy with the R2 certification. So, and that hasn't been a problem, but with batteries changing and batteries embedded in products, especially when we're talking about like vape pens and things like that, the e-cigarettes, it becomes when there's batteries embedded in something like that, and there's nicotine left in the cartridge, and the battery is embedded in the cartridge, it becomes a hazardous waste. So, it's kind of falls under a whole different line of management for us. But so, like I said, I can speak to you about what we do, and I can tell you, batteries is our focus material, and none of our focus material goes to landfill. But, that's a good point. And that's definitely something that you, as a committee, when you're thinking about who you're doing business with, what their end markets are. We can provide you a list of who our end markets are if you were interested in where material goes. And it's, done by different chemistries of batteries, and who those end markets are. So, that's, it's a good point. And that's, that really applies for anything, right? Batteries or any other HHW material, or even, paper, plastic, metal, and glass, just understanding, really what is the end market for those. So, yeah.
Mark, I see you had your hand up, Mark.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Ken was mentioning, but last time I went to Batteries Plus, they were going to charge $2 a pound, and they would not. And I brought in a bucket similar to what Barry uses, and the guy at the counter said, "Okay, before you leave, we're not just going to weigh this. We're going to sort it. We're not going to accept anything but rechargeable batteries from you."
Mm-hmm.
So they're eliminating charging you, which is for the whole thing, which is nice, costs you less, and it saves them from having to sort it on the back end.
Right.
So they wouldn't even accept anything other than rechargeable batteries.
Right. And that's, and when we're talking about what, where there is value in some of those materials, it's going to be in the rechargeable batteries. So it's, it's going to be in the laptop batteries and the cell phone batteries, and in the nickel metal hydride. NiCad is not valuable usually because of the cadmium. A lot of end markets, don't want the cadmium because of the toxicity of it. And just depending on how the processes work of how they're recycling batteries. So again, we have this, when we're sorting batteries, we have a little phrase if we can't determine between a NiCad and a nickel metal hydride battery when we're doing a sorting. And I think the phrase is something like, when in doubt, NiCad it out. And it's just because the NiCad process is, can accept things like nickel metal hydride, but the nickel metal hydride process can't take the cadmium. So, there's all these nuances in terms of battery recycling and the chemistries associated with those different batteries. But again, it's, those places are going to want anything that has value to it. And it's not going to be the lithium primary batteries, the single-use batteries. It's not going to be the alkaline batteries. But that doesn't mean that there's not important materials, rare earth materials, or critical minerals in those batteries that can be used for other things. So.
All right. With that, I'm going to draw us to a close because I think, Tracy, this has been absolutely wonderful. I think we could probably talk about this for hours and hours.
could,
So,
yeah. I'm all for that. So,
Yeah, we may circle back around to you again. I think this is probably going to create more questions. So, for what it's worth, thank you so much for
Not a
your
problem.
time.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll
Hopefully
let
you
you loose.
enjoyed it. Yeah, hopefully it wasn't too much, but
Oh, no, it was very, very helpful. So thank you so much.
no problem. Thank you for your interest, and let me know if you have any questions for sure. So,
All right.
very
good.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. So I'm going to apologize to the committee in advance. It looks like several of us had hard stops at 3:30. So I'm going to rush through some of this new business. And if you don't mind, I'll hold some of it over to next month. I'm referring to the minutes on the second page with our goals. There were several of us that stepped up to kind of help take the lead on some of these. And what I'd like to encourage is those folks to, before we meet again next month, to convene in whichever way makes sense to you and start talking about what you see happening. For example, I've got Barry and Rana, a recycling audit. I've got medical waste, hazardous waste, and junk pickup. I've got Demetria, Daniel, Barry, and Kathy. I think there's some things that could happen offline, if you don't mind, and in the next month, and if you can kind of get together and start noodling some thoughts. With that, part of my conversation with Tracy got me to investigating a little bit about a household hazardous waste day. Our contract, the city of Saugatuck, discontinued our contract with Alkaline County way back in 2009. I have a copy of the letter. So we discontinued that contract with Alkaline County. So we haven't had a household hazard waste day in a long time. There is a private company called Drug and Laboratory Disposal out of Plainwell that does household hazardous waste days. And so I talked to a really nice gal, Terry, and she sent me kind of a draft estimate, if you will, of what it would cost to set up a household hazardous waste day, one day for like 3 hours on a Saturday. And she estimates for us, and we could charge, we could talk about how we want to do this, but it'd be right off the get-go, just to come out, the site fee would be $1,500, and then they would charge 88 cents a pound. So that's something to kind of keep in the back of the mind. The other thing I wanted to let you know along those lines, my friends with the Rotary Club, I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and one of the Rotary Club's mission is a kind of an environmental sustainability component. And so I talked to Jim Sullivan, the president, about this, and he is actually circling around to his board to see if they can help fund a household hazardous waste day for us in the community. So stay tuned on that. I was thrilled. I've kind of learned if you don't ask, they won't tell you no. I didn't expect that. And so it was kind of a pleasant. So I'm going to circle back around with Jim and see what's happening on there. And if we could get some financial help to do a household hazardous waste day, what might make the most sense as it pertains to batteries is to do an HAW first and have people bring their batteries, and then maybe a second stage begin to look at a subscription service for the buckets. So that's kind of where my brain's been going on that. So if you don't mind, anybody got questions real quick before I try to wrap us up in a very rude way? Sorry.
An idea just came to mind that if we went, if we staged the buckets, if we decided to do that by having a number of different depots, if you will, around the area, it might be worthwhile to approach places like Dumont. I always call them Dumonts. You know who I mean.
Yeah.
Dumonts, Overijssel, the library, various places where people shop in numbers. And for example, ask Overijssel, say, we'd like to leave a bucket here the bucket's going to cost us $110, but if we publicize that you have the bucket, that's going to bring people into your store. Why don't you help us by underwriting the cost?
The other, yeah, and thank you for that. Also, one of our participants today is the Reverend Sarah, and Sarah Turlow. I think that's how I pronounce your name, right, Sarah? Sorry, I butcher last names. And she joined us specifically because we were having this conversation about battery recycling and wanted to see about what they might be able to do at the church. So the churches might be another option as well. I'm a member of the Douglas UCC, and we have a whole sustainability committee. So this might be something that some of our local churches might be interested in as well. So
Garn, do you mind if I put in a thought there?
Is that Sarah? Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it.
The church has been thinking about hosting an electronics recycling day and to have a battery drop-off location here at the church just as a service to the community. So we would be up for coordinating for a day. Absolutely. So we're exploring these options too.
All right. So very cool. Okay. So let's keep that in the back of our mind then, our crew that's working on that. I think that's going to end up being a pretty big project. Okay, with that, I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, we'll hold all this other new business till next month. In the meantime, if the folks that volunteered to work on these little subcommittees, if you want to convene, that would be really cool. So we'll leave it at that. Public comments. Anybody out there, not a member of the committee, that has a few words to share?
Well, I'll just say that if you need some advice on the electronics recycling days, the Macintosh Creation Care Group did that for 5 years prior to ComRenew coming to the area. We worked with ComRenew and a number of the churches, and we held, I think we did 4 per year for 5 years, and we did something like 400,000 pounds of electronics that were recycled. So there's some good advice that's out there for how to do it and some things to watch out for and people to work with. So call on us. Peter Bogart and myself and a number of others worked in that for a long time. And I would think that maybe another presenter at another meeting would be Chris Hunter from Global Battery Solutions. Might be a good person to have to talk about some of the new technology and the stuff that's going on right here in Holland and West Michigan.
Okay, very cool. All right. Excellent. I had a thought and it disappeared and doggone it. Okay.
It's there somewhere. I just want to I'd quickly say welcome to Kelly and Lori, our committee members.
Yeah, welcome guys. Great. Barry, I see your hand up. Go for it.
Yes, thank you, Garnett. It's good to see Sarah on there. Interesting, both Linda Escott and I are members of that church. And we will circle around with Sarah and talk about that at some point. And the other thing was, one of the things on my list was committee assignments. And what I'm kind of gathering is that the way that was listed in that, in the minutes, under goals, that became the committee assignment. So I'm ready to move ahead with that. And I'll talk to Garnett on the side. A lot of the subcommittees may have a lot of questions for Republic. And we got to have some kind of protocol so that I'm not calling Republic today. Ron is calling them tomorrow. The other committee is calling them on, we got to kind of make this more, work a little smoother. So it's something to think about. And I would run all that by Garnett before I did anything.
Yeah, thanks, Barry. And that was my thought. I actually have a note here. I'm going to reach out to Jack Brown about the possibility of a battery recycling. It does make it easier if it's just one of us calling him. I mean, he's such a great guy. I mean, he'd probably talk to all of us. But if you don't mind, I'll take the lead on this one.
Well, and if during that call, could you also ask him about the recycling audit? Rana and I, our name is attached to the audit, and I would probably lean on Ken at some point on this too, to hear his experience, but not right now.
Yeah, we actually have some information on that based on the presentation that Cassandra Ford did to us from the recycling partnership. Some things that needs to happen from a recycling pickup standpoint before we could really really do a good audit. So stay tuned on that, and I'll chat with you offline, Barry, and fill you in on
Yeah,
that.
thank you,
Okay,
Carmen.
cool. All right. Any other public comment out there? And I apologize. I should remember in the future just that we have a 3:30 hard stop. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
A motion to adjourn. It's Mark.
All right. Thanks, Mark. Second?
Second by Barry.
Kelly.
Barry? Okay. I'll pick Kelly. She's new. How's that? All
take
right. All right. Very good. All right. I'll do a roll call then. Mark?
Aye.
Kelly?
Yep.
Rana, are you still on? I think she's gone. Daniel, I know had to go. Linda? Hi.
Ah, yes.
All right. Lori?
Yes.
Barry, I got myself. Yes. Kathy North. We might have lost her. Demetria.
Yes.
All right. Very good. By the way, you guys, Patrick is not on the line, I believe. He and his spouse have COVID. And they've been struggling. I shouldn't say that sounds worse than it is, but they're just having a hard time recovering. So, I've told him just to get better,
Yeah.
get better, take care of
Hard thing to
himself.
recover from a year, so.
Yeah. So he's been so apologetic, but I was like, hey, don't worry about it. Just get better. You're fine. So that's where Patrick's been. So just FYI.
Yeah.
All right. With that, we're adjourned. Thanks so much, you all.
Bye, stay safe,
Thanks.
everyone.
Thanks for your time.
Bye.